Well, guys, you know I always like to talk about correlation versus causation. And there was a survey just done by Greg Nuckols that I think really shows the difference between correlation and causation. Now, Greg is a really, really smart guy. I think he writes some of the best stuff for weightlifting, powerlifting. If you want to get stronger, you need to be following him. He also has a publication called Mass with Dr. Mike Zordos, who's one of the foremost researchers on daily undulating periodization, and Eric Helms, who's doing his PhD as well in exercise science. Great publication. I'll put a link to it down here, so if you guys want to learn more, you can check it out. But Greg did a survey where they looked at the incidence of injuries amongst lifters, and they found some interesting trends. Now, what they found was that over time, people who lifted longer had more injuries. Men had more acute injuries than women. But really interestingly, irregardless of training duration, stronger people had more injuries. Okay? So, if we look at, that's what we call an association. Okay? Injury rate is associated with strength level. Okay? Just like you hear some of these things like meat is associated with cancer, or sugar is associated with diabetes, or all these different things that you hear. Coffee is associated with heart disease, or any of those things. Interestingly, you could say that, and well, people make the leap, well, association, that must mean one causes the other. So if people who eat meat have higher rates of cancer, or people who eat sugar have higher rates of diabetes, these sorts of things, you could say, well, one's just causing the other. Well, why couldn't I make the same leap of logic that in order to get stronger, you should accumulate more injuries? That if you get injured more often, you will be stronger. Because what we have is what's called confounding variables. And when we look at that, we know intuitively that that's not true. That just getting injured is not going to make you stronger. It's just associated with being stronger. And I think it's really important to point out the difference between a correlation and a causation. Let's take sugar, for example. Yes, people who eat more sugar tend to have higher rates of diabetes. But all of the direct examination data looking at sugar shows that when you control overall calories, sugar does not cause diabetes at a higher rate than a lower sugar diet. However, people who eat more sugar eat more calories on the whole, because if somebody has 2 Cokes a day, for example, they don't say, well, I just ate 80 grams of carbohydrate from Coca-Cola, so I'm going to drop 80 grams of carbohydrate out of my diet from somewhere else. No, they're drinking that in addition to what they normally eat. They're not controlling for that variable. So the purpose of this video is just to kind of highlight, one, some interesting research survey from Greg Nuckols, but also, two, to really point out that correlation is not causation. In fact, you can go on a website called Spurious Correlations. If you just Google Spurious Correlations, you'll see that some insane things that have very high correlation rates with each other, like divorce rates in Maine and margarine sales, have like a over 97% correlation with each other. Like, that's way higher than you'll ever find for things like meat and cancer, sugar and diabetes. But do we really think that margarine cells are causing divorce in Maine, or that divorce in Maine is causing margarine cells? No, there's just, for whatever reason, those two groups probably have some similarity factor that causes those to go up or down in association with each other. Also, the amount spent on space exploration is inversely proportional, very closely associated, inversely proportional with the rate of pirate attacks. So, again, there are some insane things that correlate with each other. Now, I think correlations can be useful for picking out trends and saying, you know what, we should examine this further. But if we, for example, with something like sugar, if we looked at direct intervention research and we control calories and we control these other factors and we give a group more sugar and another group less sugar, and we don't see any difference in the rate of development of diabetes, then sugar is not causing diabetes. Okay? Too many calories with inactivity are causing diabetes. Hope this video was helpful for you guys. If you like it, please click like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, guys.